But here in San Antonio, my only word of warning, if you're getting the free stuff from the mulch dump, wear gloves, plastic gloves preferably. We had a lady in shades of green one day, from her wrist to her shoulders, just a solid mass of red welts, because the mulch that you get at the brush dump is everything that comes in and gets ground up. One load apparently had a lot of poison ivy in it. So, like two of the other speakers have said, the best stuff is what comes off of your property, and there's nothing wrong with the stuff from the brush dump. But you don't know what went into it, so handle it carefully until you do. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Bob. Stuart, could you address or give us a website so we can find out more about the cancer product that you and your company?
We'll come back to that in a few minutes. I want to take care of this question first, and we'll get that. Thank you. Howard, you want that?
Yeah, just real quickly on the mulch. I agree with recycling your own stuff. That's the very best. What commercially is starting to be available now is what I think Bob started calling, and a couple of us started calling a living mulch, which is shredded tree trimmings, best from your own property, mixed with compost, or composted itself slightly first. It is incredible how well it works. And then I probably ought to mention the bad mulches. A lot of people waste a lot of money on pine bark and cypress, and those are the two worst mulches of all. And there's a whole bunch of reasons. I see some people looking a little inquisitive about that. Pine bark won't stay in place, washes away, blows away, starts breaking down into some nasty chemicals at first, doesn't grow plants as well, nearly as well as these other things that we're talking about up here. Cypress doesn't break down at all. And that a lot of people think is a good thing, but that's not good at all. We want the mulch to break down to become humus. That's the way the natural fertility works.
And I would tell you one more thing just to remember is that before man came along, everything on your property was recycled, other than a little bit of material that washed in a flood, other than a little bit of material that blew away in a dust storm. Mother Nature did a wonderful job of mulching, dropping the leaves off the trees, growing grasses that then either fell over and rotted or were eaten by animals and returned to the soil in the form of manure. Don't bring any exotic stuff in there. The pine bark that Howard's talking about comes out of East Texas, byproduct of the paper industry and the lumber industry. It's not something that doesn't contain the things that our plants here need in the form that they need them. Your plants on your property have grown well for centuries, for eons, for millennia. And the materials that those plants have incorporated in their growth over all those years are what are being put back onto the soil in your home or in your area. So, yeah, local is by far the best. Somebody wanted to add something?
Yes, sir. Just something we didn't bring up, and this is more for larger fields. Green manures were the way to go back when. You planted Austrian peas or a different number of clovers or a different, Beck here tells a great story about a vetch he planted with some clover that got taller than his tractor or something. And that is organic material. That is what you're looking for. That is compost in the making. That is carbon for you. And that's very easy to do. And actually, I did my first little effort this year that I've really done where I did something other than a small garden. And I went to King's Heath. I got Austrian peas, and I got it, their little powder inoculant. And it probably did more for a little area. I'm eventually going to try to garden. And Howard went to my house yesterday with me and said, yeah, you got a lot of gardening soil here, don't you? I live on a rock. It looks like this table. But I'm attempting to get something going there, and I was amazed at how much material I got in one season growing green manures, if you look it up. So it is another alternative if you sure can't afford to bring it in a truck.
Bruce?
Yes.
So the natives don't need a lot of mulch. You shouldn't worry about mulch. When you make that switch very soon, and you will, to more native plants, if you watch them out in the countryside and you go out there, there's not a whole lot of mulch under them. So switch to natives. You can use a small amount of mulch, get much further with it, the compost, just gentle amounts of compost. The native garden is going to be the one that uses the least mulch. And many times when we plant things together, we have a living mulch. The sun can no longer bake the soil, and living mulch is one of the more popular things in the organic garden too. But most importantly, the thing to remember is go native.
Question?
Just a real quick comment. We have a lot of oak trees, so of course we have a lot of oak leaves, and I've taken to shredding them because I read that if you don't shred the oak leaves, that they have almost a it keeps the water from going in. Have
Okay, the comment was lots of oak trees, which lots of us have, lots of oak leaves, which can tend to kind of mat up on the surface and to some extent reduce the amount of water that actually gets in the soil. What to do about it? I shred. I run the mower through the leaves, and I think that's one of the best things to do. Anybody have any other thoughts? Spray them with Banana Plus, throw some molasses out, something that will help them break down more quickly. But remember, those trees drop those leaves on the ground for a long, long time before you moved in there. So obviously enough water gets through most of the time to do something worthwhile.
Question for Stuart, going back to the compaction issue, and then also talking about the cover crop with the green manure. On the compaction, we were talking about soil activator. Could you elaborate a little bit on how deep you can get into some of the hard pans, commercial growers, chemical grade hay, talking about the large acres?
Okay, the question was going back to compaction issue on some hard pans, things like that, wanting Stuart to comment a little bit more on how deeply you get into the soil, how you can break that down, and the time involved.
The depth it'll go will vary with the type of soil that you have. If you have a clay soil that's very compacted, you'll probably only be getting 3 or 4 inches during a season. But we've seen more loamy soils that are still compacted that you can't put a probe through or a 3/8 inch rod. You have to really work to get it to go down into the soil. Eventually you can get 4 foot of loose soil by reducing the amount of trips with your tractor. Do things also that don't aggravate the compaction. But you can get a soil that will be 4 foot deep and loose, and the water goes all the way down. We typically use a gallon of Medina soil activator, a gallon of molasses, and then change the way that you farm to reduce the trips. Don't plow your ground as much. Plant cover crops. Does that cover everything?
It does. Now, the cover crops, then the next question, you're talking about the, I guess, the color time, chicken manure. I've read, I guess, I've heard some issues with chicken manure that some people were, or some states were barring them from an organic program. Is that something that's been rectified by the baptizing process?
The question was, are there problems with the poultry litter and poultry manure products? Yes, the product that we're using is even certified organic by OMRI now for use in vegetables. Usually you would have to use a manure crop 90 days, 120 days before the crop is actually harvested and used. Now it is certified to be used at the same time of the growing crop. The pasteurization and the tests that have been involved in determining that there are no disease organisms in there is what is allowing it to be used in the certified program.
Okay, moving along, there are 2 or 3 questions here involving how to kill things. How do I kill wild passion vine? How do I kill weeds between deck boards? How do I kill 3 or 4 different things? Let's talk about natural herbicides for killing things for a minute, and we'll just go right.
I would look at the vinegar-based products. The formula that we recommend is 10% straight vinegar with an ounce or 2 of orange oil per gallon of vinegar, no water, and then a teaspoon of some kind of a liquid soap. We use the plant wash is the one I personally use, but any liquid soap, Lemon Joy, whatever. And Bob and I both have talked about and gotten some pretty good feedback that a tablespoon of molasses per gallon of that mix helps to kill even better. Do it on a warm day, but doing it in the shade early or late is no problem, but a warm or hot day it works better than if it's... Now there's another product on the market that's a fatty acid product that's an organic herbicide called Scythe. And we've got some experiments and we've got some research going on up at OSU in Oklahoma and also with the USDA up there on organic herbicides, and we're using the idea of mixing the vinegar and the fatty acids like Scythe together, and they'll kill even Bermuda grass. The only problem is they're not on the market yet, and you'll have to make that mixture yourself. There's another research guy that currently has another fatty acid product that he's going to bring on the market in about a year, and it's a safe, totally organic herbicide that kills as well or better in some cases than Roundup. you're going to have to wait on that one. It's going to be about a year, maybe as much as a year and a half. Those are the main things, although nutgrass, Bob and I were talking about this on the show, nut sedge you can get rid of with molasses. There's no question about it. The only question is